frame of mind. Okay. The Board of Zoning Appeals is going to come to order. I would like to start by explaining how we operate here. We will call each case, and I will have staff review the information about the case and what's being requested. And after that, one of us up here who has been to the property will actually give us a little bit more of a painted picture of what they saw when they went out to the property. And we asked, at that point, we asked the applicant to come forward and ask them, or they can tell us anything they want to tell us about their project. And then we can ask questions. And once we're done with that and feel that we have pretty much all the information we need, we'll open it to public comment. And anybody who's in the audience who wants to talk about the case can come forward, do that. And then afterwards, if we have any last minute questions of the applicant, we can ask them. And then the person who's in charge of the case will make a motion to close the public hearing. And what that means is we're no longer taking comments from the audience. It is just our opportunity to talk as a committee. Then the person who's in charge of the case can do one of three things. They can move to table if they feel there's some reason that they have to need more information or whatever. They can move to deny the request, or they can move to approve the request. And then with that, I'm going to ask that you can maybe do this for me. The reading of the minutes. Yeah, reading of.
Make a motion to, reading of the minutes, right? Sorry.
Yeah, May 20th.
Start again. Making a motion to waive the reading of the minutes of our May 21st, 2026 meeting and approve the minutes.
Second.
It's seconded. Any comments about the minutes? Any changes? Okay, awesome. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. I'm going to ask staff to come to the podium, but just so the people in the audience understand, we have been asked to table or postpone the first public hearing until next month. And the second public hearing that's on our agenda on Richmond Street has been withdrawn. So with that, I will turn it over to staff. Thanks.
Chair. Would you mind flipping your switch, please? Thank you. Thank you. The first case for consideration today is 3127 Plainfield Avenue Northeast. The request is for two variances to facilitate the construction of our new restaurant and drive-through. The first dimensional variance is to locate parking in the defined front yard, and the second dimensional variance is for a parking lot to exceed 50% of the lot width at the front lot line. The property is located in the northeast corner of the city, just south of I-96, indicated on the map there with the yellow star. The property is really nestled in this corner between 196 and Plainfield Avenue Northeast. The property is highlighted in the blue outline. You can see that the on and off ramp for 96 aligns with kind of the south portion of the site indicated there. There's a residential neighborhood located to the west and some commercial businesses located to the south. The property is proposed to be redeveloped into a restaurant with a drive-through. The redevelopment plan requires the two previously mentioned variances. The Bridge to Our Future Community Master Plan designates this property within the Community Activity Center. The intent of the Community Activity Center is to provide places to live, work, shop around key intersections and along corridors, to evolve areas into well-connected, walkable places within a 15-minute walk, bike, and transit trip of surrounding neighborhoods. The site is currently improved with a single-story building and accessory parking lot. All site improvements are proposed to be removed and the site will be redeveloped. The presence of eastbound I-96 ramp on the south side of Plainfield Avenue Northeast necessitates a direct alignment of the drive into the site with the existing light on Plainfield Avenue Northeast. So if I back up to the previous, you can see that the drive into the site aligns with the ramp from I-96. And there's an existing street light there that necessitates that alignment. Our restaurant use is permitted in the zone district, which is the mid-century neighborhood, mid-20th century neighborhood commercial zone district, or abbreviated MCN-C. The drive-through use requires planning commission review and approval. Pending the outcome of the variance request, the application is scheduled for the August 13th, 2026 meeting of the planning commission. The applicant should detail any neighborhood outreach and the outcomes of that outreach. I will move to the first variance being requested today, and that is a dimensional variance to locate parking within the defined front yard. Per ordinance, the front yard is defined as the space between the front of the building and the street. And the graphic on your screen, the front yard is the space between the bold red line and Plainfield Avenue, which is on the bottom of the page or to the south of the site. Of the 30 parking spaces in the defined front yard, 6 are stacking spaces, or as the applicant refers to them as pull-ahead spaces for vehicles exiting the drive-through waiting for food. Those spaces are identified in green on the plan. There are additional off-street parking spaces for employees and customers. Those spaces are identified in blue on the plan. In total, 50 off-street parking spaces are required for the proposed use. 57 off-street parking spaces are provided. The maximum parking that could be provided per ordinance is 60 off-street parking spaces. Staff has discussed alternative site layouts with the applicant, and the applicant has provided some alternative site plan layouts for discussion today, and I'll defer to the applicant on those alternative layouts that they explored, but were determined not feasible for one reason or another, and again, I'll defer that to the applicant. The second variance request today is a dimensional variance for a parking lot to exceed 50% of the lot width of the front lot line. The parking lot and drive aisles, which include all of the spaces identified here in blue, and the drive aisle at Plainfield Avenue, and the parking spaces to the east of that drive aisle, account for 206 feet in width as measured along the front of the property. The lot is approximately 225 feet in width along the front of the property, meaning that the parking lot accounts for 92% of the lot width. Again, the ordinance requires 50% or less of the lot width be parking or drive aisles. The parking lot dimensions meet ordinance requirements but are not the minimum as allowed by ordinance. For example, the parking spaces and drive aisles are 2 feet in length/width above the minimum as required by ordinance. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Schaefer.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry. How many spaces did you say the code requires?
This use, based on the floor plan of the building, requires 50 spaces.
50,
Yep.
not 60.
Correct. 60 would be the maximum.
Okay.
And Rowan, just one quick question. When you say the off-street parking is available, where exactly is that?
So that would be all the the off-street parking in the front yard is highlighted in blue, and then the remainder of the parking lot on the right-hand side of the page or the east of the site.
Gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Nope, that's what I thought, but I'm second guessing myself. Thank you. Okay, ready?
Oh, sorry. If the applicant would come forward, please.
I can do mine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Schaefer first.
No, you're fine. So I visited the site at 3127 Plainfield Ave Northeast. It as previously was a Denny's, and it is directly across, as Rowan stated, from the I-96 exit ramp there. It is bordered by houses. on one side, the highway on the other side, as you can see on the maps in the parking lot. And then in addition to that, there are numerous buildings, not only on Fuller Ave as you drive up to Plainfield, but also further down as you go down Plainfield. One thing that I did notice in terms of front lot parking is that it's really common for other businesses in this area, and that with the exception, obviously, of the houses. I do want to note that, I do have concerns about the houses and noise and all of that that's going to be directly adjacent to this lot. Just want to note that will be for the planning committee to decide in August should we approve this. So, very interesting area in terms of having the housing, the highway, the very busy Plainfield Drive, and happy to hear from the applicant.
Okay, now I'd like the applicant to come up. Sorry about that.
All right, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we need your name for the record.
My name is Mike Hausman, and I'm with Wolverine Building Group, or Wolverine Construction now. And I'm here representing Mike Brand and the Culver's franchisees. I have Matt Cole with me. He is the engineer of record for the site, so he always watches my back. So if I make a mistake, he's going to come running up here and say, "You forgot this," or "You got this wrong." So I think in these situations, one of the things I like to do is kind of just walk through the findings of fact. There's two variances in the packet. One is addressing the building dimensional variance, and the other is the parking dimensional variance, but they're very similar. And so really with the building, what are the exceptional, extraordinary circumstances here? Mrs. Schaefer, you realize it's a funky shaped lot. It's really weird, very strange. And then the fact that this curb cut that's there is not only large, but right in the middle of the property, we can't move it. We can't change it. We could do some things to mitigate the need for the variance if that could happen, because it really affects what side of the site you put the building on and how you use the site. How does it do the exceptional, extraordinary circumstances impact the placement of the building? Again, that drive, if you look, being right in the middle, you're forced to put it on one side or the other. Denny's happened to be on the other side of the site, which is more thin, and for the need of the restaurant to have a drive-through, it wouldn't have worked on that side of the site where Denny's is now. And I'd like to digress just a second on the restaurant. It has a drive-through, and Culver's is notoriously, just putting that bucket of a drive-through restaurant, fast food. Well, they're not. If you've been to a Culver's, they're not fast. They'll tell you that. They're actually, they classify themselves as a fast casual, which Denny's is. And a fast casual basically is a restaurant that does not have pre-made food. They're fixing it when you order it. It's coming out fresh. They're not pulling a frozen burger out and cooking it. And that's why we have, for example, a need, if you look down here, this area here for these park areas, that was talked about, can we eliminate those? And we are going to eliminate this one here from our staff meeting and comments. But right here, this is because they're not a fast food restaurant. So very often that person in the drive-through lane has to pull forward. They stay there. That's not a permanent parking spot. It's only temporary. And then they'll run the food out for them when it's ready because it's coming out fresh. And so that area is needed. Of course, how does the impact of that drive and everything, it forces us to put the building on one side, which sucks up that half of the building, and we have to get the parking on the right side of the building. And again, that drive just really messes things up for us. A Culver's restaurant, this one will have over 100 seats plus employees. Oftentimes, I think the average amount of parking is 65, and we knew we had the minimum of 50, max of 60. We ended up at the 57 because of the waiting area for the drive-through candidates there. So standard 2, does the right variance necessary for the preservation of the enjoyment substantial property right similar to that possessed by other property owners in the same zoning district? Yeah, if we don't get these variances, we can't use the site. We bought it for a Culver's, so we didn't necessarily look at other uses that could go there. But as a developer and a builder, and I look at this site, I cannot think of any use in that zoning district that could go there and not have to have a similar variance. It's just, it's taking up so much of the property. If we were not able to get this, we wouldn't have the right, we wouldn't be able to use the property the way we'd want to do it. Is this self-created? No, it was really created by that drive that was approved for the Denny's when it went in. I think that thing was, I'm 62, so I don't remember it not being there, but so it's well over 40 years it's been there. And obviously new zonings have come in that, you're stuck with the shape of this property and we're stuck with that drive. So we did not self-create that. And we're trying to repurpose this because this will be a great use. I mean, that Denny's has been sitting there empty for a while, and even before that, you could see it was struggling pretty bad. And this will be a really vibrant use for this property and an asset to the community. Would this be a substantial detriment if the variance is granted to the surrounding properties? It was a restaurant before. It's going to be a much better restaurant now. Mr. Brand will be doing quite a bit of enhancement between the residential and the building itself. The houses themselves, that'll help buffer any concerns about the speakers, which will be handled by the Planning Commission, but with the volume controls today and how they can, they really can mitigate that. We will show that at the Planning Commission. So we do not see this as being a detriment. In fact, it'd be a benefit it's very walkable for people to come there, the neighbors to the north, to the west. They can obviously walk up there and get some ice cream or get a burger pretty easily. And we're right near a bus stop too. So in looking at number 5, is it consistent with the area, or would it impair the purpose or the intent of the master plan? I don't think it will. I think it enhances it. Again, it adds to the community. It gives a very good use that people can walk to. It's going to add more landscaping to the site, beautify the site, and we have tried everything we can to mitigate the need, and I'm going to try and do this here. We did submit 2 other, let's see if this is nope, 2 other sites. Here's one that we looked at, just trying to find different ways to get rotation in the site, get the cars in there, and work it around that drive. And you can see how we have to gyrate that parking lot, buildings in the back, and of course, the request would be far worse that we'd be asking for. And then option number 4 was this one. And again, it's the impact of the pavement across the front, meaning the percentage of the frontage left to right, as well as having pavement and parking in the front of the yard, is still worse than the option that we have submitted today. So because the dimensional variance of the parking lot itself is so similar, it's being caused by the same thing. The answers are pretty redundant, and I don't want to bore you with that. I'd be happy to answer questions around that. But in closing, I hope that you see, we have made an effort to find my paper. We have made a hard effort to find the right plan and not have to impact and have such a need for variances, and mitigated that the best we could. We have a very good use, and we ask that we find favor with you, that we get this variance. With the understanding, whoever goes here, because this is an expensive piece of property because of where it's located. So me as the developer, I look at this and I think, well, I could put retail there because that's allowed, right? Well, you're gonna need more than a 4,000 square foot building to rent it out, and it's gonna be elongated. So none of the tenants are gonna have storefront facing views from the road. So it's going to be long, and that's the worst thing you can do for a center. You're not going to get the rents you need in a retail building like that from those renters. They're going to say, well, they can't see my sign from the road, because maybe from this direction they can, but not from this direction. All they see is the end of the building. The end cap's going to get some visibility, but all the rest of the people in there, say I got a 7,000 square foot building in there, I'm going to need just about as much parking, but I won't be able to get the rents per square foot because they don't have visibility of the street because of where that entrance is. So I am very confident, and I know it hasn't been studied by staff, but looking at the ordinance and the allowable uses, I think any one of these uses that could be allowed here would be in front of you with a similar request. So again, I ask for favor. We ask for the approval for the variance, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. That was comprehensive, and I appreciate it. I also appreciate seeing what else you've considered for this site. I do agree. I drove by it a couple times, and I was like, how are people going to get in and out and maneuver if we didn't have this? And so it was very helpful to see that, as well as your plans in here. So thank you for being so thoughtful in your planning here. Just one quick question. I want to make sure that I understand the site plan correctly. On page 132, this is the one that Rowan showed us, everybody. There is the walkway there. It says 2, and then that goes to the patio. It kind of goes through the drive-through area. Is that what you're talking about, that the neighborhood may be able, that's how they're going to be able to safely walk up to that site?
Yeah, there is a sidewalk that way. From my
Okay.
understanding. Yes.
And there's going to be assurances that they won't get hit by the car?
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm part of, what we have to consider is, accordance with the master plan and zoning, and one of the things that in this zoning area is that we do want walkability and the ability, the neighborhood is right there. So that was a key concern of mine was, well, how would they walk up and be
Yeah,
able to
there's
safely do
connectivity.
that on a very busy road?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's very helpful. And then, did you do any outreach to the neighbors?
We did not. I missed that in the findings of fact, and I should have gone out there to check with them. I do that often. I'll just go knock on doors and see who I can talk to, but I don't think we received any negative feedback from them.
No, there's
that
nothing
I'm
on the
aware of.
record, yeah.
So that's at least a good sign, but that was a failure on my part because I usually just go knock on doors and see what they think about it, so.
Yeah, okay. Just some unsolicited advice is that for the planning commission, because a lot of that will be focused on impact to the
Yeah.
neighbors and the drive-through there,
I
so.
will be sure to go knock
Yeah,
on doors.
for us, it's important to do, but in this case, I think it's probably more important for the planning committee to do that.
And that's
commission
the
to do that.
thing, they get another bite at this layout, so when they get it.
Yeah, for sure. And when we were talking, when I noticed in the application that you talked a little bit about how this lot was created in terms of, I know I've been calling it the pizza wedge, but it's not even a pizza wedge because you don't get the top triangle
Right.
because that's owned by. So there was a house there, then a Denny's, and then the lot was actually created by putting the highway in. Is that correct?
Maybe you could, Matt, explain that.
Roughly, that's what we think.
Need you at the microphone,
Yeah,
sorry.
you can come on up.
Yes, my name
Name,
is Matt
please.
Cole with Rosine and Associates. I'm not confident, or I can't say I'm definitive, but that was my interpretation as well, that it appeared that, when the expressway came through, they just kind of chop up some areas, and then what's left is what's left. And obviously, it doesn't go through north, south, east, west, but Plainfield doesn't either. So
Right.
that's why I think we're kind of stuck with this.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. I mean, we'll say for the record, that's our best assumption, that it was created by the highway. Those are the questions that I had. Any other questions?
No? Okay, I do.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
Oh, no.
Okay. The size of the building? Is there other sizes to choose from?
There are, but they don't vary much. It's roughly, 500-foot difference between them?
A what?
500 foot.
This is the smallest they have, is what he said. Yeah, this is the smallest one. I can't read it on here, but, so they do have a couple other options, but they're all bigger. This is the smallest they have.
Okay. I did not see an option that you looked at where the building was actually facing Plainfield and closer to Plainfield,
The end of it facing Plainfield or the side?
or the front.
I think that, again, what causes that challenge is that we can't fit it in there with where that entrance drive is. We can't move that one way or other, and we can't make it smaller.
Well, I did not see your building moved up as far as what is considered stacking lanes for your staff to go out and deliver the food. I did not see a building facing Plainfield that came up that close. And that drive is going to be, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Yes, so if we click on this one, I think I hear what you're saying. So something similar to this, but shoved even closer down to
Closer.
the south, right?
Yep.
So our problem with that is if we don't want to send the patrons to have to walk through the drive-through to get in. And so if we have that shoved down and all the parking is, say, to the west and to the north, now in order to get in, they have to walk across the drive-through, right? So that's kind of, because if we have that shoved down south, so the entrance is towards the road and there's no parking in front of the entrance, well, then essentially then they have to come in the entrance back through the drive-through. And so that's just a safety issue that we can't do.
Okay. I'm not
Oh, I see.
insinuating by what I'm saying, guys, that you can meet code completely. What I'm trying to get at is, can we get you closer to what the code requires? And that goes to my next question, which is the size of the drive aisles and the size of the parking spaces. Because it seems to me you could get out of the front yard more if you were more in keeping with a typical parking lot.
Yes,
Nice.
and that's good that you mentioned that too. So I know the city allows smaller spaces, I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can go down to 8.5 feet wide and 18 feet long. And we appreciate that. I know, for instance, like at Myers, right, where you have groceries and people are going in and out, they like to have theirs 10 feet wide to make sure that the doors aren't dinging and banging into each other. So we understand we can go less. Our experience has been, you don't really want to go less than 9 feet wide. Otherwise, at that point, people got to be really good parkers, and you still might get some door dings. And so we always say, if we can, let's go with 9 feet wide. And then at that point, it's, okay, do you go 18 or do you go 20? There's a lot of trucks and SUVs, so we say if we have the space. We did look at this and say, okay, we could shave, and that's kind of what we're holding in our back pocket with the planning commission, is we say, well, if we have to, so this is probably our third rendition in this kind of way. I mean, we went through the other alternatives, but it was a little bit closer to the residents. And we met the ordinance in that regard, but they said, well, let's still see that drive-through further away. So we shifted it another, I think, 4 to 6 feet to get even more buffer, and we can get more landscaping along those residents. With the idea in the back pocket is if they say it's still a little bit too close, we could shorten up some of those parking space lengths. But typically, I'd say, I've been doing this for 30 years. You've been seeing this a lot, but you like the ideal parking space, if you had the space, is 64-foot wide, 20-foot long spaces, and a 24-foot aisle. Some places, they let you go down to 20-foot aisles. Some places you go down to 18-foot parking spaces, but that 64 is the best. And then it's just a matter of, okay, are you in a urban area where a lot of people are driving small cars and you can get away with something a little bit tighter. Here next to the expressway, I think we're going to see all kinds of vehicles. And so that's why we said, you know what, this is the best, and this is what we're kind of starting out with, keeping everything in mind. I don't think changing those space lengths is going to, drastically affect, can we get down to 5 spaces in front of the building? The big problem is having to drive through and having the vehicles need to drive essentially around it, and having it be in a Culver's where they need to be able to pull up and wait for the food to be delivered, that shoves the building farther away. Hopefully that kind of answers your question.
It does. I still believe that making it smaller will get you closer to the code. And I'm also curious about the 7 parking spots right up by Plainfield. Why are those even necessary?
So a Culver's is not like a Freddy's where they might only have 4 staff, or a Wendy's. It's all about service, right? And getting people their food and having a lot of staff there. So we have 15 people on staff. And so as a result, we need a lot more parking spaces just for the employees,
Okay.
as well as the fact that we've got, over 100 seats in there. And so as Mike had alluded to, typically a Culver's, we see 65 plus parking spaces. Here, we don't have that. And so we said, okay, well, we need 57. When I ran the calculations based on what the city requires, I came up with 69. I know there was a benefit to having the bus stop, and you can factor that down, but based on the square footage and the outdoor patio, we don't even meet that, obviously. And so we just know that in order to be successful, we need as much parking as we can get, and this was the only place to put it. And it made sense with the configuration of the lot that it's not a rectangle. If it was a rectangle, then we wouldn't have those, and, we would have had them off in the northeast.
And again, that you just touched on, one of my other questions is the patio does seem to push things into the front yard setback. So is there a need for a patio?
I guess I could leave that one to the owner. I know that's what Culver's likes to see. I know patrons like to see that, but obviously it's probably only in Michigan getting used maybe 6 months out of the year.
I guess I have a question for staff then, this is one of those where I don't know where my role ends and the planning commission starts. I would like to see them use as much, what's the word I want? Compromise on the parking spaces to at least reduce some of the front yard parking. I think the patio is pushing some of that. I think that I think that there are ways for them to make it closer to the code, but I'm not sure that nitpicking about a patio is something that isn't going to be done at the planning commission stage, or the parking sizes.
Yeah, I will add that the reason the applicant is before you today is because the site plan does not align with 2 of the ordinance requirements, which is why they're here seeking variances. The Planning Commission does not have the authority to permit site plans that do not meet code requirements. That is your authority to grant variances from the code. And so elements of the site that are directly contributing to the variances or the conditions that arise to the variance, I think are fair considerations for the board to deliberate on. I will point towards standard number 5 of a dimensional variance, which is alignment with the master plan and also the zoning ordinance. I know that standard 5 can seem counterintuitive at some times, like how can we find for alignment with the zoning ordinance when they're seeking a variance from the ordinance? And I would point you to, I think it's the question that you raised, Chair, is how close are we coming into ordinance requirements? Is this the bare minimum? Is this variance the least separate or least as closest to the code as possible? I think that is the appropriate standard to evaluate that question under. You also brought up the question of the patio. I think standard number 2 would also be an appropriate standard to evaluate some of those questions. Like, are there, as this is a redevelopment and a new site plan, are there conditions that are arising, the need for the variance that are driven by the applicant's proposed site plan and layout? I think that would be something to evaluate under standard number 2, not self-created. It might be standard number 3, but I think it's standard number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that
I
answer your
just-
question?
Yes, thank you. I just, for board's purpose, I just feel that they could be closer to what we need than they are. And I'm not hearing any real effort to make that happen right now anyway. So I'd love to hear from the rest of you.
Well, do we want to have the question and then maybe we can close and discuss?
Oh, we should do public comment, too.
Public comment, yes, thank
Do you
you.
have any other questions of the applicant?
No, actually, those, both the questions you asked were the questions I had written down.
Okay.
Actually,
Thank you.
Yes.
One's come up now, but it's more, so the front yard setbacks starts at, I can see it on the site,
line.
on the site plan, but where does it end?
So the front yard is defined as the space between that bold red line and the front of the lot. So pretty much everything between the red line and the bottom of the page is considered the front yard.
Okay, maybe I should rephrase. There's a minimum, you can't go into the front yard setback, but you can keep going further back into the site as far as you want for the front of the building?
For parking?
No, for the building itself.
I'm not sure I
Are
understand
you
your
asking,
question.
can they push the building like to the back of the lot?
Yeah, like, is there a maximum that the building can be from the street?
Oh, I see. So this zone district, I believe it has a, let me just check the code, because let me check that really quick and then get you an answer.
Okay,
Yep.
appreciate it.
My guess is 25 feet.
I mean, this is like 100 feet off the street.
I know. That's why,
Is there a third variance? I wonder if we missed, there's a missing variance.
I can touch on that.
Yeah,
So our understanding is the closest it can be to the road is 20 feet, and there is no required build to line, so you can move it back as far as you want.
as far as you want.
And then one other thing I did want to add on is the parking spaces east-west, yes, those are 20 feet, and they're a little bit longer than required, but those 7 that you mentioned in the front, those are the bare minimum 18 feet long. So we did minimize those as much as possible to have less pavement in front of the building.
okay.
Thank you.
So, Rowan?
And I will confirm what Mr. Cole said, that this zone district does have a front setback of 20 feet, so there's no required build-to line, so the building can be anywhere from 20 feet close to the street back into the site, provided it meets all other setbacks.
It's just that the further back you put the building, the further the parking also has to go back because the zoning ordinance doesn't allow parking in front.
Yeah, that would be correct.
That's why my question's about moving the building forward.
No, I know.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
So I was talking with Mr. Brand, and the patio is a Culver's, like, brand requirement. So we can't give an answer on that today, but we would demonstrate that effort with a layout and send it to Culver's and bring it to the Planning Commission if we could get the variance today for the parking. But we can't definitively say that because it's, again, a brand standard. And even though he owns the building, he doesn't have the authority to say that he can do that. But he's willing to if they would allow us.
I would advise the board on that.
yes.
To the extent it's applicable to a standard of your review, I think that's when that would be an appropriate time to discuss that.
The patio?
Correct, yeah. If the patio is an element you feel is something you want to discuss with your standards, I think that's the way that the patio should be discussed. Otherwise, I'm not sure it's necessarily relevant.
Okay. Well, it is forcing front yard parking.
Right, so
Apply it.
Yeah, because, I
Correct.
mean, not to, start our conversation earlier, but Chair, one of my points will be that in alignment with the master plan, it seems like the patio is necessary to create a walkable place where, the community can walk over, get an ice cream cone, sit on the patio. So, But we can discuss that after public comment.
Perfect. Okay. So if we're all set here, I'm going to open this for public comment. Anybody in the audience who wants to come forward and talk to us about this, I'd love to hear from you. Hi.
Hi there, David Stover, just here because I also have a variance meeting.
Yeah.
But I think activating that Denny's would be great. Right now, it's a pretty sore site.
Yeah.
So.
It is a sore site. Has been for years. You bet.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. We're going to close the public comment right now.
Make a motion to close public comment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Why don't I make a motion first and kick
Okay.
us off, and then we'll see where that leaves us. So this is, and I'm going to take should I take them one? I should do one by one, right, Rowan? Like, yeah, probably be, yeah, okay. Sorry, this smoke has me like, excuse me. Wow.
Yeah, welcome to our
I
bonfire.
know, I'm so
huh?
sorry. Like, I just all of a sudden got something stuck in my throat, so excuse me for a minute. Okay, thank you so much. So this is for the first motion is to approve the dimensional variance for 3127 Plainfield Ave Northeast. The dimensional variance is to allow 30 parking spots between the building and the street. The current ordinance does not allow for parking between the building and the street in this zone district. I make that motion to approve for the following reasons. Number one, exceptional and extraordinary circumstances or conditions. In this particular case, a review of the site as well as testimony on the record shows that this is a rather unusually shaped lot. I would say it was a triangle, but they don't even get half of the part of the triangle, so a rhombus, I guess? I don't know. Go back to geography class. But it's a rather odd site. It is lodged in between the highway, a neighborhood on the front, a very busy Plainfield Ave in front of it, and then directly across the street from that, of course, is the 196 exit ramp. That exit ramp also creates other exceptional, extraordinary circumstances or conditions for this particular lot in that it has to align with the signal that is already there, and the curb cutouts cannot be moved. As a result, that sort of condition of the building is making it challenging to develop in alignment with the variances. Substantial property right, number two, I find that this has been found in that when driving around the neighborhood, with the exception of the neighborhood that's directly next door to it, which is actually kind of odd for that area, the majority of businesses in that area have
They do.
front lots in their front parking in front of their buildings. Granted, that may have occurred before 2007, but it would mean to me that there is a substantial property right to have that front lot parking and to develop lots with that lot, like that they would be denied if we did not approve this variance. Not self-created. In this case, I want to note for the record that the applicant showed that they considered two other possible ways to orient the building on the site in order to meet requirements. Also want to note that testimony shows that this is the smallest culverts that they could build on the site. So making the building smaller is not something that could occur. In addition to that, they did not create the interesting lot lines that is hemmed in due to 96. And in addition to that, they did not create the curb cutout that requires the building in order for flow of traffic to go one way or the other. There was some questions on the record from Chairwoman about the patio. In that particular case, I'm going to address that in the number 5. Anyways, number 3, I kind of touched upon this, sorry, Rowan, if I messed up the thing, but not self-created, substantial property right, not self-created. Again, with self-created, I find that this has been found that it has not been self-created by the applicant due to, again, the lot lines, the lot that they're purchasing, the current traffic patterns, curb cutouts. In addition, they did try to find a way to fit a functioning building on this site without this, but it looks like this is the best option that was presented. No substantial detriment, that it would not create a substantial detriment to adjacent properties or surrounding neighborhoods. In this case, I would say it would actually create a benefit to the neighborhood. The current state of the site is dilapidated, it might be nice, and unmanicured is how I would put it. It's also been vacant for many years. It's an unused plot. In this case, the developer and the applicant here has put considerable thought into how someone could walk safely into this building in order to get some ice cream or a meal, and they could walk directly over from the neighborhood in a safe manner. Also, in addition to that, there was previously a restaurant on the site with parking that abutted the residential area. So in that case, I don't believe that a substantial detriment would occur. Also, it's just a very busy area. At number 5, master plan and zoning ordinance, I want to note that this exists in a zoning area that is trying to encourage people to work, live, and play within the area. In this case, we have a unused parcel on a very busy area, and this improvement would allow for people to walk over from the existing neighborhood, get a meal, or an ice cream cone. And in this case, I can appreciate Chairwoman's comments about the patio, and if eliminating that, could we then move the building up? Could we reduce the variance? I'm of the mind that the patio offers yet another benefit to the neighborhood in alignment with the master plan and the zoning ordinance to create that area to work, live, and play. Additionally, there's like nowhere else to park safely on Plainfield Ave, and I would rather us have, in addition to the master plan and zoning ordinances, oh, thank you. The ability for people to walk over. I think that'd be a substantial improvement to the area to give anybody anywhere to walk on Plainfield safely. And so for those reasons, I find that all 5 of the conditions are met, and I would move to approve. Happy to take feedback.
I need a support first.
I'll support for discussion purposes.
Okay.
I was going to say, if everybody disagrees, then somebody can make a motion to deny.
Yep,
So,
but she approved for, or seconded for discussion purposes. You want to start, Ms. Swenson?
turn on the microphone. Yep, there you go. It's okay. We got you.
The day I get that right,
I
you're
know.
all going to celebrate. I am struggling with this a little bit because it's a variance and doesn't make, and Chairwoman, you might have to educate me on this, the difference between a big variance and a little variance. To me, a variance is a variance. I think they have made considerable efforts to make the site walkable for the community, welcoming. A patio may not be necessary, but it does fit with the neighborhood and the characteristics of the master plan. There's also some landscaping, it looks like, in there that shields it a little bit. And again, if they were going to start to push things up to reduce the variance, maybe one of the things that would go is some of that landscaping. So a reduced variance is still a variance and may not solve all the problems. So that's where I'm struggling a little bit.
Maybe Mr. Brady could help with that. From what I understand, it's our responsibility to give a variance when needed, which I'm not arguing that it's needed here. I'm not. I get it. No matter what they do to the site, there's going to be something that doesn't fit right. but from what I understood, we are supposed to look at things so that the exception to the rule that we're given is the minimum of what is needed to make the project work. Now, maybe he can explain it better.
Yeah, I would look at standard number 5 as the applicable standard to evaluate that question under alignment with the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. And I would base your rulings on what was presented as well, and your findings based on what is presented. It is not your responsibility to design the site and come up with alternatives that work closer to the ordinance. It is the applicant's responsibility to present evidence that they meet the standards, and it is your responsibility to evaluate the evidence that was presented. So I would keep your evaluation focused on the materials presented today, and I notice Attorney O'Connor nodding, and
Yeah, I echo Rowan's comments. I would review this based on the request provided and in front of you, and then based on the standards, right? So if the request as provided and presented to you satisfies these standards, then we approve, right? If it doesn't, then it's a denial. So that's how I would approach this, as opposed to thinking about alternatives, planning, right, and designing. Look at what is being presented. Does it meet our standards as presented?
And I would also just say that we've had people come before us who obviously, didn't talk to Rowan, back when we had a sign guy, didn't talk to the sign guy before they came before us, didn't try to look at, size of parking spots, didn't have alternative plans. They just said, this is what we want. We're putting it on this site, and you should approve it, right? I just do want to give this applicant at least credit for, excuse me, coming here, showing us the other options that they considered, speaking to what went into the decision, the needs of the particular business, the constraints of the lot line. I feel that in this case, the applicant has been much more thoughtful about how the building goes on the site and can they do it in a compliant manner. Now, could they not have a patio? Sure. Could they possibly not have, parking for their staff? Or could they put it somewhere else? Could they? Sure. But I think to, our city attorneys, it's also like, I can't, well, first of all, you wouldn't want me to try to design a building. But in addition to that, I don't want to get to the point where we're demanding, all the changes based on what we think is necessary. And by that, I mean redoing the plans for them.
Correct.
That's what I mean, not that we couldn't tell them no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ms. Swanson?
And that's kind of my takeaway from the attorney's advice is what is before us and how it compares to the standards. So then I come back, it's a variance yes or a variance no. It's not necessarily a different variance. So,
But we also have the right to put on conditions.
For sure. Yeah.
yes.
And I do agree. I mean, when I read the packet, and again, shout out to Rowan because the staff reports are always awesome. It is a little jarring to see 50% to 91%, right? I mean, we talk about margins. We've definitely had some people who've come and asked us for like a foot for a garage, right? I mean, and you're like, oh yeah, a foot, like we could make that work, right? So yeah, a 41% jump is significant, and I don't think that this board should take that ask lightly. And I think that we should go back to the 5 conditions of why that may be necessary. And I think that part of the strongest evidence for that is the traffic patterns in that area and the curb cuts they can't move. I think that is just a part of the lot that they cannot change. And anybody who tries to put a building on this lot is going to struggle with.
Yep. Totally agree. This way. Come on, James.
Yeah. I think in this particular case, given that it has to go to Plan Commission, and they're going to spend a lot of time on the site planning aspect of it, and we'll probably, there'll be a lot more time spent on site planning. And I think I started out more skeptical than I'm ending up. I think Ms. Schaefer's done a good job of walking us through the application and the reasoning behind it. I think it does, in fact, meet the standards, and quibble about exactly how far off it is isn't something I want to go down right now.
Okay. I'm struggling because I was always taught that you try to make things as close to code as you can. And I think if the building and the patio were switched, it would buy them a couple of parking spots. I think that if we put conditions on that the parking spots meet city code, instead of being wider aisles and bigger spots, and that it could shrink the amount of space, or the 90% that's there. Now I'm going to ask, is this something, but you said that the Planning Commission cannot approve front yard parking.
No, correct. The reason this application is before you today is because you are the only board with the authority to approve these two elements of the site plan. If the Planning Commission had the authority to approve these, it likely would have been delegated to their authority with the drive-through, but it is before you because this is what the ordinance procedures outline for. I will just add that the board has three options for this case: approve, deny, and table. Often the board will table cases with direction if there are some outstanding questions that you either want the applicant and staff to work through. I just remind the board of those three options for any case.
All right.
I mean, I see, if it was to be approved, I don't see it as an endorsement of this particular site plan by the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think all we're saying is it's necessary to have front yard parking here. It could be less, it could be more, and it's not our responsibility to figure out where that line is, because the Planning Commission will come after us.
But the Planning Commission can't approve that.
They can approve a different site plan that has front yard parking.
I will say typically with site plans that come for variances, it's pretty strict in terms of modifications that can be made before. So if there are elements of this site plan that are tied to findings of fact, and this is provided in testimony and material to the board, it does lock in certain elements of the plan before you. That would go to Planning Commission, and also it wouldn't necessarily bind their hands in terms of requiring modifications, but any modifications that substantially change the site plan may require to come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals if the site plan changes in a way that impacts the variances that were requested and approved, denied, or whatever action you take.
So if the Planning Commission makes the request less, it probably wouldn't come back to us.
It's not a situation I've ever been presented with, so I don't know that I could speak to that in the moment. Looking at Attorney O'Connor if they have any experience with that.
I guess, what do you mean by less?
So, I mean, right now we're arguing about what Lynn's point is that the degree to which the variance has pushed the boundary, right, matters. There's another argument right now being made that anything over the line, it doesn't really matter how far you've pushed. And I guess.
So, wait, James, can I just ask a question? So are you asking that if we were, say, approve the 91%, right, of the lot width, are you saying that can the Planning Commission come back and say, we're only going to approve plans that would, for whatever reason, under their authority, would allow for 80%?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. I don't want to make a decision that locks Planning Commission into, but then we get into a circular problem with how planning approvals are made.
Yeah, I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they would basically, Planning Commission would determine, should basically even the use be there, the drive-through, And so I think it's a bigger question, right? We're just trying to figure out, could we fit it on the lot? And then they're going to decide, does it make sense in terms of like the plan? Circulation, traffic, all that, safety.
Yep. Planning
Yeah.
Commission's review includes site plan review as the technical name under ordinance, which is consideration of all site elements. And so even though their review is triggered because of the drive-through, it encompasses and kind of grows into the larger site plan review that looks at everything. Now that I've had a moment to think about your question, Mr. Lewis, about could less be approved, I would kind of flip the question back on the board if my thought on why I haven't encountered that in my career is potentially like, actually, I'm just gonna stop there.
No, but I think, this is what's in front of us, right? The front line, are we gonna allow, and the motion on the table is around just, are we going to allow front yard parking?
Per plan submitted.
Right? The next motion will be about the 50% requirement and the 91% variance. So this is just on this lot, for any business, would we allow this front yard parking? And per plan, they have the parking lot over that red line. So that's the first motion, is would we even allow front yard parking? Why do I first say is it lot? Front yard.
Is that correct?
For the site plan in front of you.
Yes, for the site plan in front of us.
So it's just for, would they need front yard parking regardless of how much?
Well, the material on the record.
It's for the
is
30 parking
the 30
spots.
parking spaces. And I would also add that the applicant has provided in testimony that the stacking space right here in green, kind of on the bottom, is going to be removed. So I would amend the approval motion to say per plans and testimony to
Thank you.
capture that, that record provided by the applicant. But it would just be an approval, as the motion is on the table to approve front yard parking, would be for the site plan that is before you.
Yes.
So how does the 50 to 90, if you approve this, you got to approve that?
They are related. I do think they're two separate sections of the zoning ordinance. I would say that the question on dimension of parking spaces and aisle widths likely isn't going to alter the number of parking spaces in the front yard. And so it's really just going to shift things, what is that? 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet into the site. That likely isn't going to push any of the parking spaces out of the front yard that are currently in the front yard.
Got it.
And that would be reviewed with the planning commission at site plan review on the size of the parking lots, right?
I think it's
It'd be part of the consideration on the buffering to the properties to the south and such, right?
I think yes and no. I think that I would redirect the board. There's a motion on the table that is the second variance for the 50%. So I think there is more discussion to be had on that point, but would kind of punt it until a motion is made for that variance. But I do think they are independent requests.
Right.
While people are thinking, I'm going to make an amendment to my motion as suggested by Rowan, that the amount of parking, including the single parking spot highlighted in lime on page 132 of our packet, would not be included in this motion. Do you approve? Do you second?
Yes, I'll support that amendment.
Okay, the support is supported. So if everybody understands correctly, this is a motion to approve with the exception of the one lime green parking spot up against Plainfield Avenue will be removed. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Try it again, guys.
I
All
can do
those in-
a roll call
Let's do a
vote.
roll call.
Okay, do a roll call.
Bjelland.
Aye.
Lewis.
Aye.
Repo,
No.
I skipped.
Schaefer,
Yep.
Swanson,
Aye.
King.
No.
A motion of 4-2 to approve the dimensional variance fails.
Okay, cool.
We,
Five.
based on recommendation from the attorney's office, it is recommended that you come to a decision, either more discussion, or actually, can they make another motion to approve? Attorney O'Connor?
No, it would be a motion to deny
Right.
unless there was different reasoning provided with a motion to approve.
Can I ask a question? Chair, you mentioned we could make a motion with conditions,
Yes?
and I am curious if there is a motion with conditions to approve that could go forward, because it would then be a different motion.
I mean, sure, it depends on if there are conditions that this board feels would satisfy their concerns to enable them to reach an approval.
Or we could move to table. No?
I mean, yes. I'm not sure, it's your decision to table, I guess, at this point, but I'm not sure how helpful that would be or what you'd be looking for further if this was tabled.
The applicant, because the application was denied, the applicant is unable to bring this request as presented back in front of the board for another year, but they can bring a different
don't want that.
request. And so tabling to request revisions for modifications for the site plan, the applicant has the legal ability to do that anyway and come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So if the intent to table is to request additional time working with staff or modifications to the site plan, I would say that that motion is not needed because that option exists to the applicant.
Fair. Yeah.
Just looking at the attorney's office to maybe confirm that.
Can you repeat?
Yes, yeah, I know I spoke very quickly, so apologies. The applicant can revise the site plan and revise the application to return to the Board of Zoning Appeals with a different request. And so if the board's intent behind tabling this request was to ask for site plan modifications or changes to the application, I don't believe that that action would be necessary because the applicant has the ability to do that anyways.
Agree.
So, Chairwoman, it sounds like our probably best course of action is to move to the second motion, the second dimensional variance that was requested, and then the applicant can come back with a new.
I would recommend if we are denying that a formal motion to deny be made, seconded and voted on.
Yes, that is great. I will not make that.
Question, if they're formally denied, doesn't that kick in a time frame before they can
Yeah,
come back
I
in
don't
front
wanna
of
do
us?
that.
Correct, that's what Rowan was just discussing.
Yep, so it's
But
a
if we-
year before they come back,
Yeah,
come
and I
come
don't
back with
wanna
you
do
with the
that.
identical request, but they can make modifications and come back before you sooner than a year. So if there are substantial modifications to the application, they can come back sooner. But I believe if it's a denial, there has to wait 12 calendar months to return with the same request. And I can read the ordinance to double check on that in the bylaws, but that's my recollection. I'm seeing,
So basically, it's the same effect as tabling for a month?
What would you table? What would you ask for if we tabled here?
For them to rework the plan so that you have less front yard parking?
They can resubmit the plan if it's materially changed. They have that ability.
They just can't come
They
back.
can't
with
resubmit the exact same plan.
For a year.
Correct.
Okay.
Got it. And the motion has to be made by someone who was in dissent, correct?
I think that would be advisable.
I can't make it. Sorry.
sorry, Mr. King, before you make a motion, Assistant City Attorney Connor, could you provide the board some clarity on why we recommend having a decision on a denial? And I can support if you need as well.
I do think that we should provide reasoning as to why we are denying and why we feel as if this does not satisfy the standards.
And a lack of official action also denies the applicant any appeal rights that they would have. So if there's not a formal motion that is passed by the board, the applicant effectively has nothing to appeal.
Okay, I'm going to take a stab at this. I'm going to make a motion to deny the request for a dimensional variance to locate parking in the defined front yard for the following reasons. Number one, exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions. I do believe that this condition has been met based on the size, scope, and location of this particular property, the way that it abuts the adjacent freeway, and the entry point having to have alignment with that exit ramp. Standard number two, substantial property right. I believe that this has been met, as other properties within the zone do enjoy front yard parking. Number three, not self-created. I believe that this has been met, is that the immediate practical difficulty causing the need for the variance was not created by the property owner, and that being the size and location of the lot. I'm going to say no substantial detriment has been met, as we did not hear about any community outreach, and there were no letters requesting that this project not move forward in the file. Number five, master plan zoning ordinance. I don't believe that this condition has been met, as I don't believe the standard for requesting the minimum necessary request to meet the ordinance has been met. The lot can support a minimum of 50 required spaces, and the applicant is asking for 57. Additionally, the size of the individual parking spaces exceed that is required by the city, and these, by modifying these two requests, the request could be brought into greater scope with the current zoning ordinance.
Is there support? You knew this
I'll
was going
support
to
it.
happen. Huh?
I'll support.
Support for discussion? Yes?
Discussion and perhaps for clarity for audience members. To grant a variance requires a minimum 5 votes, no matter how many people are at the meeting. It's 5 because it's a portion of our quorum. To approve a denial would simply be a majority vote of those present. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No? Am I waiting on you, James? Huh?
I think, yeah, no comments.
Okay. All right, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the denial? Aye? All those opposed?
Aye.
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 Okay, same vote. Next step?
We can proceed forward to the next variance.
Okay, what's the status of the current variance?
Well, a motion to approve failed, a motion to deny failed.
Okay,
So
they can come back.
at this time, it's not something that I've encountered with the city. It's something that I would have to look into further. I'm not sure what procedurally this means.
You too?
I know that working with previous Attorney Hooker, again, the guidance from the city attorney's office has always been to encourage the board to come to some sort of decision so that the applicant's legal appeal rights to the Sixth Circuit Court,
To the circuit court. yeah.
Circuit Court, yeah, is available. But
Okay, let me ask a clarification question. With the way it stands right now, can he come back with a change plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Further clarification?
Yes.
The way it stands right now, could he come back with the same plan? No. Because he wasn't denied.
With more board members? Huh? What's Tyrone's point?
That the board needs to make a decision on one of the two, either to approve or deny with a vote.
That's why I'm going back to is if there is perhaps, and please, Chairwoman, don't look at me to make this motion, but is there a motion with conditions that someone could put forward that could either be approved or denied?
Does anyone want to make a revised motion to approve?
I mean, I could. I'm just not entirely sure what would be acceptable to you, Chairwoman.
No, it's on.
The conditions that would make this work. I mean, other short of approving fewer parking spots, denying their right to a patio. I mean, I'm just not, other than redesigning where this is at on the lot, I don't know what conditions would achieve what the concerns I've heard are.
I agree.
I think my primary concern is simply just what's the minimum necessary needed in order to meet the code and still ask for a variance. And I think the two things that I mentioned in my motion were both, there's 7 more spaces being provided than are required, and the size of those spaces is slightly larger than is required by code as well.
Okay. I mean, I could make a motion that, only approves the minimum amount of parking in the front lot. I think the motion that I made was for 30. And so if we want to reduce, I'm not sure about the size of the parking spots is something that is a condition that I could do, but I look to Rowan and the attorney to speak to that.
We do have authority to offer and approve a variance that is less than what is being requested. That is something that we can do. To the extent that that is workable for the developer is another
Right.
question.
Right. Right. I mean, we could certainly, the teal area that is by the walk path that I talked about, we could certainly discuss removing that, as that was indicated that was for employees, and there may be, we could certainly talk about removing that, and that would reduce some of the setback that they have for the building, if that's something that would address concerns.
That would make me happy.
It would make the chairwoman happy, so that's a win.
Yeah, and I think it gets us closer to code.
And it would remove 7 spots, which right now
Okay.
they are over code by 7 spots. Over code by 7 spots.
Okay, so,
Sorry, and I think we could take care, to discuss the width and length of parking lot spaces in the next variance because it affects the width of the parking lot where this is about a count, more or less.
that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So the motion would be for 23 parking spots in the front yard. Is that correct?
My recommendation would be to add a condition onto a motion to approve that the 7 parking spaces located in the southwest corner of the
Long Plainfield.
property be removed.
Okay.
We can type up a motion with exact language if you need it.
No, I'm going to wing it.
Do you want to take conversation from them?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine taking conversation from the applicant if this is going to, completely not even work for their business. I'd hate to improve something
Because
that,
we've closed, so you need to, it's up to you whether you want to ask them why they're standing.
Can we
Yeah.
take a recess?
That's fine. I don't have a
Then
problem with it.
Rowan and they can confer, Rowan can come back and report to us on the record.
That's true, too.
Oh, that's fine if we want to take a brief 10-minute recess.
Let's do 5.
5, thank you. All right, I'm going to make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
We will be back at 2:26.
staff has had an opportunity to review the request with the applicant. The applicant is amenable per staff's recommendation that they remove 7 parking spaces in the front yard. It is staff's recommendation that no specific space be identified, but they work with staff to find a site plan that is practicable for all parties involved that includes the reduction of 7 spaces in the front yard to come down to the 50 as required by ordinance.
So we're not specifying where those 7 are? Is that what you just said?
Correct.
I'm not sure if that.
Yeah, I'm amenable to that. If it gets us closer to the minimum required. I'm not so concerned where the spaces are.
You seem more, Chairwoman, where the spaces are.
I just am surprised because it seems to me that those 7 parking spaces are,
Well, it could be any of these
Yeah.
in the green area,
But
any
it-
of that teal area.
it seems to me that the 7 that are down closest to Plainfield interrupts flow of traffic,
Yeah,
pedestrian flow of traffic to the building, so.
I am not a qualified transportation
Got it.
professional, so I don't want to
But-
bind the applicant into decisions that I'm not confident I have the expertise to.
Got it.
To
That's fair.
bind
It
to
is
a
fair.
condition. Yeah.
Okay, so 23, Rowan, 23?
My recommendation
just
would be
tell me.
to, let me read the dimensional variance. My recommended motion language would be to approve a dimensional variance to locate parking in the front yard with the condition that 7 parking spaces, as shown in the front yard, are removed where practicable.
Okay, and should I also mention the lime green per testimony that will not be there?
That is correct. That is, you could say, per plans and testimony.
Per plans and testimony. Okay.
So is it an approval of a specific number of spaces in the front yard?
Well, I guess it would be the 23, yeah.
Yeah, but you'd rather have me say approve it to locate parking in the front yard?
I think the language I stated gives the most options for staff and the applicant to work towards a practicable site plan.
Yeah, that's fair. Can you just repeat that for me so I get it right, please?
Yep,
It's been a long day.
I should have written it down.
No, sorry.
A motion to approve a dimensional variance to locate parking in the front yard per plans and testimony with the condition that 7 parking spaces within the defined front yard are removed where practicable.
Okay,
And that one, the one lime green one is gone.
yep, I think that's the per land and testimony.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, the condition of 7 spots are removed from the front yard.
Yes.
As practicable,
Where practicable.
where practical, okay. Okay. Okay, do you guys want me to try this again here? Yeah, okay,
Please.
okay. Let's make sure I get the language right here. And thank you to the applicant for your willingness to work with us here. We appreciate it. All righty, let's start again. This is a dimensional variance for 3127 Plainfield Ave Northeast. The dimensional variance requested is to allow for front yard parking. I'm going to make an motion to approve the dimensional variance to allow parking in the front yard of this parcel per plans and testimony with the condition of 7 spots are removed from the front yard where practicable. And I'm going to make the following findings on all 5 conditions.
Lime green.
That's per plans and testimony. Nope, you're fine. First, exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions. I find that this condition has been met for the following reasons. First, there is exceptional shape of this particular lot due to what we assume per testimony is because of I-96 being installed. This lot is an odd shape for the area as it is located in between 96 Plainfield and an existing neighborhood. In addition to that, there is exceptional condition of the lot in that it is directly across from the 196 East exit ramp, and the curb cuts cannot be moved due to that exit ramp and the traffic light that is installed. Therefore, the ability, and this is not a condition that's shared with others in the neighborhood, making it exceptional or extraordinary. In addition to that, I find that condition number 2, substantial property right, was met. I visited the site. I noted that in the particular area, number of businesses all also have front yard parking, and that without this, and especially because of the shape and location of this particular parcel, it is likely that not approving this variance would mean that the applicant was deprived of substantial property right, similar to that possessed by other properties in the same zone district in a neighboring area. Number 3, not self-created. As I noted for number 1, I find that this was met. In particular, again, the shape of the lot is rather unusual and extraordinary for the area, as evidenced in the packet by the aerial map. In addition to that, it is impacted by I-96, the exit ramp, as well as a traffic signal. The applicant did not create any of these particular constraints on building on this particular lot. In addition to that, the applicant presented 2 other site options where they attempted to try to fit the building onto the lot, have the required amount of parking, have a drive-through, be respectful of traffic flows and other obligations. And I find that not self-created was met. Number 4, no substantial detriment. Do want to note that per testimony, the applicant did not seek input from the neighbors directly next door to this lot. I would encourage the applicant to do so in advance of the Planning Commission meeting, in order to ensure that the noise from the drive-through does not carry over to that lot. That being said, I find that no substantial detriment was met. This is an incredibly busy area with a lot of traffic. In addition to that, this lot was previously used as a restaurant where the parking lot abutted that particular parcel that has a house on it, and thus I don't think that this would create any detriment. I also want to note that I actually think this will be a benefit to the neighborhood in that it is creating a walkable path to get a meal or an ice cream by the neighborhood that's directly adjacent to it. And finally, I find that it meets the master plan zoning ordinance as noted by staff. This particular zoning area is to create an area that you can work, live, and play in. I think having a functioning business that you can walk to is a significant impact, a significant benefit to the neighborhood over a derelict building that is not maintained. And it will encourage them to live, walk, and play, live, work, and play in the area. And for those reasons, I make the following motion to approve.
Support? Any support?
Support.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Okay, we're done. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we did it.
We did it. We did
Thank
one.
you very much.
We did a single one, everybody. So let's move on to number 2. All righty.
Scared him to death.
I know.
Anything else on
All right.
next?
Number 2 is about the width lot, which is 91%. You're supposed to have 50% here. What are we thinking? I think, James, I heard you say, that they should reduce the size of the parking spaces if possible to reduce the ask. In the interest of not redoing their plan totally for them, what are we thinking? Do you want me just to make the motion as I would have made it? Or do we want to have some conversation to make sure that we fully understand, are most people trending towards approve or deny here, so we don't have to take 3 votes?
I was just suggesting this is the appropriate place to
Yes.
discuss that, not necessarily for or against the
Yeah.
reduction.
Yeah.
So is this something the Planning Commission can have impact on?
I do think that the width of the parking spaces and the drive aisles is influencing the request before you today, so I think that discussion is appropriate to discuss as appropriate in the findings for a motion.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
I mean, I'm not opposed to, reducing the parking lot. We probably require people in Grand Rapids to be better parkers, which, is a question there. The one thing that I really would not want to, and I think it all mess with is the drive-through, and anything related to that, because traffic flows and all of that, I think, is something that Planning Commission will talk about. So do we want me just to make the motion? I'll look to Chairwoman, and what are your concerns here?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm just supportive of any variance that keeps us as close to code as possible. I recognize that maybe there's some unique conditions here related to customer base and larger vehicles. I'd ask, and this is not meant to be facetious, but, let's say it was a restaurant that came in and said they catered to RVs. Would we provide a large, substantial variance for a piece of property so that RVs could, make 90-point turns in a parking lot? Again, keeping in mind that business that caters to those RVs may not be there forever, but that variance will stay with the land.
Right.
So I think I'm supportive of anything that keeps us as close to code as conduct, close to,
Yeah, code, yeah.
code as possible.
Yeah, I think what's particularly difficult about, trying to legislate here, the width of the building is that the lot and then that curb cut, and to get traffic flows in that the Planning Commission might be concerned about, and to get, it all kind of works together. And so, again, I'm open to suggestions here. I don't want to make a motion that leaves us in a gridlock again. At the same time, I don't know if I have enough information to reduce it. Is there a condition that we could put on it that would make people more comfortable?
I think it would just be a condition to require that the parking aisles and parking space widths meet the minimum ordinance requirements.
Yeah,
It's not changing their site plan much one way or the other.
yeah. Any comments from?
I was just wondering, it wouldn't be 92% by removing those 7 spots at the bottom. Wouldn't it be a little bit less than that already?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Isn't it? It's a width calculation, isn't it?
Well, I mean, depending on how they remove the 7, because they can move any 7. What's your thoughts, Ron?
I would be hesitant to say that removing 7 spaces would likely completely
Yeah.
reduce the width. I'm hearing some desire for some sort of motion, hearing Ms. Schaefer's concerns about circulation and traffic flow. An appropriate condition may be that the parking spaces and drive aisles are reduced to the minimum, provided that it does not materially impair traffic circulation and safety.
Yeah, okay, I think that makes sense.
And with
As
that,
determined by the plan commission?
As,
Like who gets to mobile GR?
Planning Commission.
yeah, Planning Commission would likely defer to Mobile GR's recommendation and experience, so I would say per staff of the city of Grand Rapids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't I give that a go? Okay. Let's take it out for a spin. Let's see, we got nothing but time. Just making sure I get this right. All righty, let's give this a go here. All righty. The applicant has requested a dimensional variance at 3127 Plainfield Ave Northeast. The dimensional variance requests that they are allowed 92% of the width of the lot.
My recommendation would be to make a motion to approve a dimensional variance for a parking lot to exceed 50% of the lot width of the front lot line per plans and testimony.
Okay.
With the condition as previously stated.
Okay, thanks. Yep. All right, I'm going to back up. Thank you. Okay, so I'm making a motion to approve a parking lot to exceed 50% with the condition that the minimum parking spot size and drive aisle size is the minimum per
ordinance,
ordinances and as determined by Mobile GR.
provided that it does not materially impact the safety and circulation of the site as determined by Mobile GR.
What he said.
Let's try that again. Motion to approve dimensional variance at 3127 Plainfield Ave to allow for a parking lot to exceed 50% on the condition that the minimum parking spot and drive aisle size as per ordinance is reduced as practicable based on safety and traffic concerns decided by Mobile GR. Okay. Going to go with that. Do an amendment later if I need to change something. Okay, I make that motion to approve for the following reasons. Number one, exceptional and extraordinary circumstances or conditions. I find that this condition has been met in the particular case. As noted on the first motion, this lot is a rather exceptional shape for the area. It is abutted by immediately adjacent is 196. Across the road from that is the exit ramp for I-96 East. In addition to that, it has curb cutouts that cannot be moved at the front of the lot, and they also have to make sure that that aligns with the signal that is in place. As a result, I find that this condition was met. Substantial property right. My visit to the site found that the majority of businesses in the immediate area of this particular lot had very large parking lots in the front yard of their particular businesses, and in my view, exceeded the 50% of the width of the lot. And it also, the shape of the lot also means that providing the required parking and traffic flows necessary for this business may not be possible without this dimensional variance. For that reason, I find that this is fine as approved. Not self-created, as I noted in number one, the particular shape of the lot as set forth in the packet, the immediate I don't know if I want to say that. I'll go back. Let's start that again. Not self-created, I find that this is found as being met. In this particular need, the lot shape, the Plainfield signal requirements, the across from the East 196 exit, all of that was not self-created by the applicant. That was a result of already existing conditions. In addition to that, the particular condition on this lot that is driving the need for this variance was not self-created. In addition to that, I find that no substantial detriment that has been met here. The having the lot width to be at larger than 50% would not create a detriment to the neighborhood. This is in alignment with other businesses based on my view, my site visit that I've had. In addition to that, this previously was a restaurant. It will continue to be a restaurant. In addition to that, I believe it will be a benefit to the neighborhood in that they are creating a walkable path to get ice cream or a meal and have a patio to sit on, which will be nice in the summer. And then finally, again, with master plan and zoning ordinance, that I find that this is found as being met. This particular zoning area and the master plan is really focused on ensuring that people have places to live, work, and play within their neighborhoods, whether that be walkable or transit. Again, this not only is close to a bus stop per testimony. But in addition to that, it does create a walkable path into seeking a meal. For those reasons, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded. Any conditions, questions, concerns? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Do you mind if I restate your motion, Ms. Schaefer?
Oh,
And please correct me if I got it wrong. A motion to approve a dimensional variance for a parking lot to exceed 50% of the lot width at the front lot line per plans and testimony, with the condition that the drive aisles and parking spaces be reduced to the minimum necessary, provided that the reduction does not materially impact safety and circulation as determined by Mobile GR.
That was said much more eloquently than I stated it, so I
words.
completely agree with that.
okay.
Second.
He seconds. Okay, with that clarification, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes.
Rowan, you keep telling me you're going to give me an easy one. I want a garage next time, please.
All right, thank you very much for your
Appreciate it.
time and
Thank you.
efforts. Okay. What? I know, we've scared him to death, man, let me tell you.
Yeah, he must really like us. He's back for a second time.
Yeah. Okay, our next case is 3535 Lake Eastbrook Southeast, and he's still here. So, staff, please give us a report.
Hey, thank you. The final case on our agenda today is 3535 Lake Eastbrook Boulevard Southeast. The request before you is a dimensional variance of 22.8 feet to reduce the required 25-foot front yard setback from the front property line to 2.2 feet, a dimensional variance of 25 feet to eliminate the required 25-foot front setback from the water's edge, and a dimensional variance of 75 feet to eliminate the required 75-foot setback from the water's edge. The following dimensional variances are being requested in order to establish a spa business on the subject property. The property is located in the southeast portion of the city, indicated on the map there with a yellow star. I try to get the river in these images to help orient the board. It's up there in the little corner on the left. This road coming down here is the East Belt Line, and then 28th Street is running across the bottom of the page.
Oh, there we go.
This property is located behind Centerpoint Mall along Lake Eastbrook Boulevard Southeast. The property is a waterfront property with frontage on Lake Eastbrook, go figure. The applicant has previously requested variances to construct a saw business over the existing parking lot on the property, shown in the image there, those 4 parking spaces. After investigation, and then the previous application included the reuse of the existing building shown on the image there, kind of in the left portion of the site. After investigation, the applicant has determined that the nonconforming building can no longer be reused and must be removed and replaced. The complete removal of the building results in the loss of its nonconforming status, and the replacement requires the variances requested today. I will defer to the applicant on the nature of the removal and why the building needs to be removed on the site. The Bridge to Our Future Community Master Plan designates this area as a community activity center, the intent of which is to provide places to live, work, and shop around key intersections and along corridors, to evolve areas into well-connected, walkable places with a 15-minute walk, bike, or transit trip of surrounding properties. The site is currently improved with a 2-story structure and accessory parking lot. The applicant is proposing to remove the existing structure and parking lot and construct a singular 2-story structure on the property. These images are from the last case. I just retook them. I will note that the site has changed a little bit. There's currently fencing around the property, so if you were out there in the past week, these photos are a little bit out of date. They were from the last case. The site slopes significantly onto the water on the back side of the property, which is the right-hand side of both of the images. The use of the property as personal service requires 13 parking spaces based on the proposed square footage of the use. Because the square footage of the use has changed from the last time the applicant was before the board, the applicant did provide a parking agreement of 8 parking spaces with the previous application. Because that square footage has changed, the use now requires 13 parking spaces. Staff would recommend that the board condition any motion on revising that shared use parking agreement to include the increase in parking spaces, to account for that additional need in parking. The first variance requested, let me just go through the photos here. There's the building, looking at the building and site from Lake Eastbrook Boulevard. And this is the left-hand portion of the building. And the building is currently projecting out over into the water on support piers. And there's a photo of the site. Great. The applicant, let me pause there. The applicant is, the first variance being requested today is a variance of 22.8 feet to reduce the required 25-foot front setback from the front property line to 2.2 feet. In 2025, the applicant requested a similar variance. As shown on your screen, the request was for the area highlighted in blue. The existing building highlighted in green was non-conforming, so it wasn't included in the 2025 request. The request before you today is for the area highlighted in dark blue. So the variance from 2025 is still applicable and still valid. The request before you today is for the portion of the site that was not considered in 2025. Again, that building, the existing building in 2025 did not need a variance because it was non-conforming, but any replacement needs to meet code or request a variance. So again, the variance request before you today is that dark blue section for the front setback. The existing building, as exists today, is set back 2.2 feet from the front lot line. The variance for the front yard setback was granted again with the previous application, and again, the non-conforming status is lost, hence the request before you today. The next variance being requested is a dimensional variance of 25 feet to eliminate the required 25-foot front setback from the water's edge. Per section 5.2.05.E2 of the zoning ordinance, the sides of a lot that abut a water feature are defined as a front yard, and all applicable front yard setbacks apply. And so in the MONC zone district, the front setback is 25 feet. And so while this functions as the rear yard, per ordinance definition, this is a front yard, so the setback also applies from the water's edge. Again, the image on the screen is the 2025 request, where the board approved an elimination of that front setback as shown there on the red line. The request before you today is the area highlighted in pink indicated there by the 2026, again, which is a dimensional variance of 25 feet to eliminate the required front setback from the water's edge. The existing building did project over the water's edge. The applicant is proposing a deck to replace the building over the water. The actual enclosed portion of the building will now completely be on land. The only part that will project out over into the water is a deck, and I'll defer to the applicant on the details of their floor plan and those decisions. I will highlight that the depth of the land in the northwest portion of the lot, that portion being considered today, is 15 to 20 feet. So that's the distance between the water and the front of the property. Finally, the last variance being requested today is a variance of 75 feet to eliminate the required 75-foot setback from the water's edge. All natural features in the city of Grand Rapids, including water bodies, wetlands, have a required 75-foot setback. And so the setback from the water's edge here does have two setbacks, 25 feet and 75. Because this is a separate code section, another variance is required. Again, on the screen is what was approved in 2025, that lilac line on your screen. What's being requested today is that darker purple line with the 2026 side. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Swanson, who had the pleasure of taking this case in 2025 as well.
So I've been driving by this site since April 2025 saying, when are they going to do something? Why is anything happening here? So I was glad to have that mystery solved when I got an email from Rowan to ask me if I'd take this case. But the pictures and the description, everything from last April lays out very clearly what existed on the site then and what still exists now. Lake Eastbrook runs kind of behind the mall. It has several small businesses, offices, personal services. There are some small lots, although without doing deed research, none of them seem quite so small or as constrained as the applicants, but there were some challenging situations out there. There is a large warehouse retail establishment adjacent to this property. It was previously under construction. That construction looks fairly completed. There's plenty of empty parking across the street in the mall area and in that area. And I think at this point, the new building is proposed to reuse the existing piers, and so I'll be interested in hearing how the new building lays out on the footprint and the infrastructure that's already there. So I don't really have much more to add to that and could open it up to the applicant.
Okay, you want to come up? He's so anxious.
Good to be back with you all. David Stouffer. What else do you need me to say? 3535 Lake Eastbrook. Thanks for taking the approval last year, and I was excited to get started and do the renovation until I found out that the existing building is falling into the lake. And so, as much as I would love to save old things, this thing was not financially worth saving. There was numbers that you would not believe that I was thrown at. So the smartest thing was to take that building, even though it's a pretty cool building. So it's too bad. I was really hoping to save it because I think it's got a pretty neat mid-century architecture. It was built by Donald Battige. There's probably the Dutch way of saying that Batches. He was a pretty prominent architect in GR and back in the 70s, 60s and 70s. And so tried to keep it, but it's on posts that are then in concrete piles in the lake, and then there's 2x10s through bolted onto the posts that are all starting to fall off of the posts. And so the amount of wonky unevenness in the building, I was going to try to originally save it, but the more we looked into it and the structural engineers looked at it, we found that it was unfeasible. Is there anything else? Yes. Did you have questions for me, or do you want me to keep going? Because a lot of this, all the setbacks are the same as the last variance. Pretty much we're attaching new plans. So the existing building, since we found it has to come down, we'll be replacing it. We're not going to be building in the lake because that's cost prohibitive. And so I think that Lake Eastbrook is actually run by the Kent County Drain Commission. It's not a lake per se. So I found out that it's not governed by Eagle or by any of those other bodies. It's governed by Kent County. So, so there's a drain commission dam over there too called the Whiskey Creek Dam. So if you guys want found some history about our city that I wasn't sure about. So they control the level of Lake Eastbrook at the dam.
Okay.
So.
Just one of the questions I had was whether or not, and perhaps this is just confirming, are you proposing any changes to the slope, the foliage, anything like that for erosion control?
No, we won't be. We'll be pouring more or less a retaining wall, or I don't know about a retaining wall. We'll be, but the main thing was making sure that the entire structure is on the same level for ADA compliance, because the existing structure is a split level that's 2.5 feet lower than grade. And so what was happening is then people would have to take steps down to the locker rooms. Then I would have to make a special locker room just for ADA individuals. So we were trying to more or less piecemeal something together. And so now, after more time and clarity, making one mono slab on the existing that allows everyone to be on the same level is not only safer, but it's going to be a better experience as well.
And again, you're not changing your footprint in relation to any of our dimensional requirements. You're just raising it and making it sturdier, for lack of a better
Yeah,
word,
making it
underneath.
last more than whoever knows how long that building
Okay.
would last.
And then to the point about parking, how do you intend to address your increased parking needs?
Yeah, so there's available of, I think, about 2,500 parking spots within 2,000 feet. So there's definitely no parking problem. I'm not going to be parking in the front yard like Culver's, so you can see the building right there. Nothing will be in the way.
That's the condition
Okay, again, will require you to.
Oh, yes, I can have an updated, and I also even talked to the bowling lanes, and they said I could have as many parking spots as I want to.
All right, that was it for my questions.
Anybody else? You just said you're not building out over the water?
We're keeping, my goal is to keep the existing concrete piles that are in the lake
Yeah.
and turn it into an outdoor cool-down deck over the lake.
So it's a deck over the lake instead of a building?
Instead of a two-story structure that is sketchy at best.
Okay. So basically, you're just building a patio out there? on
Yes.
the Pylons or the,
Yes, the existing posts, I'm hoping to reuse and just turn it into a deck. And the neighboring property also has a deck over the lake too.
okay. All right.
And just follow up, the deck still has to comply with our requirements or receive a variance, correct?
This is such a tricky property. Yes.
Well, we don't have like, it's like, it would be a negative setback. And so the variance to eliminate the required setback would cover the deck. So everything before you today would include the deck. Our ordinance, truthfully, like, it does not contemplate building out over water. We would defer though. I haven't done the due diligence that the applicant has in terms of like who has legal authority over the Lake Eastbrook. We would likely defer to their authority on what can be permitted in the water.
I guess my question related to the structure, whether it be a deck or a building, falls under our zoning ordinance for setbacks. So the deck as well as a building would need a variance if it were to be built.
They are,
That's my
from a
question.
setback perspective, they are treated the same.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yep.
I've
Oh.
got your curse, Courtney.
Go ahead.
Would someone in the future, let's say 40 years from now, be able to build a building in place of the deck using the same variance?
Again, we would likely defer to the authority that has.
No, not physically possible, legally permissible via what we're approving.
Based on the ordinances, I'm not sure that I know the answer to that question.
Could we condition it to only allow a deck in that space?
Yeah, I think the per plans and testimony added to the end of the motion would cover that. Yep. It's an excellent question, Mr. Lewis.
So it could not be enclosed? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
that's the, because
It-
we've seen a couple different cases along here where you do something, someone else comes and does something else, comes and does something else,
Yeah.
right?
Does it matter to you?
A little bit, yeah.
Help me understand.
I think we're approving a reduction in nonconformity right now,
Ah,
where
got it.
if we allowed someone to come in later and maybe the ordinance is different at that point and you can build 3 or 4 or 5 stories, there's nothing in what we've approved that says you can't bring foundations into the lake. right? That's up to someone else to determine whether they can bring foundations or not bring foundations, but you get where I'm going with it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't go that far. Okay. You understand? Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, and so we're approving this jaggedy line here, not as far out as they want to go. Yeah.
I do believe you're allowed to put a temporary seasonal dock in any lake, as long as it gets taken out during the winter. But I think that's for all of GR. So for people who live on a lake, they're allowed to put a dock in without a permit, as long as it's a removable dock. So I found out a lot of things since I've gotten into this.
I'm sure.
And a whole journey for you.
You could put
It's been a year's journey since
Yeah,
I last
for
saw you. I
sure.
have a lot to report on, guys.
Yeah.
Anything you need, let me know.
Lunch, right?
Yeah.
But James, to your point, I think that's where in the motion, including the per plans and testimony that Rowan suggested is like key, right? We're approving what is being shown to us in this packet. Yeah.
Yeah, and building in a lake is extremely cost prohibitive. It's very, very expensive. And so I don't think anyone would do that, especially on Lake Eastbrook. Maybe we could have a renaissance.
Is everybody comfortable now? I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, I got to do that, don't I? Okay, all right. So we're going to open for public comment now. If anybody wants to come forward. Do you want to talk? You're here, you sat here for hours.
I'm Christy Stouffer, I'm David's wife, and I am excited about this new idea. To me, it makes a lot of sense with the floor plan and the layout and the flow of traffic. We've been to several sauna clubs across the country. He's been to several across the world. He's experienced it firsthand, and this particular layout is definitely going to be the most efficient with the space. It's going to be the safest with making sure everything's level. It's going to be the most accommodating to people that are limited in terms of ADA. And so I'm very much in favor of this idea.
He's happy about that, too. Thank you. All right. Do you want to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Up to you.
I'm trying to avoid this pun, but I can't. I'm just going to jump in here.
There you go.
Love it.
Ha-ha.
So, as we mentioned, back in April, we approved very similar variances for an addition.
Yep.
Now we are just have a request to continue those variances to the remaining side of the property, for lack of a better way of looking at it. Looking at my findings related to the variance and standards and the minutes of the discussion at the last meeting, there was nothing that tied the granting of those variances to the existing non-conforming structure. Admittedly, they might not have been requested, but there was no mention of it except the finding related to substantial detriment, and that relied on the existing pre-use, and I don't think that's an issue here. So because these conditions and circumstances relate to the property, and none of the property conditions have really changed since the last time this applicant was in front of us, and the board unanimously approved substantially the same variances, I'm prepared to make a motion to grant all three variances requested for 3535 Lake Eastbrook Boulevard, including a variance of 22.8 feet to reduce the required 25-foot front yard to 2.8 feet from the road, a variance of 25 feet to reduce the required 25 front yard setback to 0 feet from the water's edge, and a variance of 75 feet to eliminate the required 75-foot setback from the water's edge, as presented per plans and testimony, and based on the following findings and with the following conditions. 1, exceptional or extraordinary circumstances. There are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances to the property. The lot is extraordinarily narrow. Much of it is underwater, and the water line through the property creates a challenging triangle or trapezoid building area. The size and shape and the environmental conditions of the property qualify as extraordinary. Substantial property right, so that condition is met. Substantial property right, the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of the property similar to others in the neighboring area and zone, complying with 25-foot setback from either the street or the water's edge would make the site virtually unbuildable, as would the 75-foot setback requirement from the water's edge. So denying this variance would deny the applicant the right to use a significant portion, if not all, of the property. Not self-created, the applicant is not responsible for the property's boundaries or location relative to the water. No substantial detriment. The variance, if granted, would not cause substantial detriment to adjacent property in the surrounding neighborhood. The property is already being used in the same way proposed, and the use is compatible with the surrounding uses. We haven't received any new letters of complaint or support. I think there were 2 letters of support before in the file that we're considering as part of this. I also think constructing on the existing footprint and using the existing pillars eliminates and minimizes any environmental degradation to the site. And so I think it's actually almost good to be shoring that up and making the building safer. And consistency with land use and master plan. This is located in a modern area neighborhood, commercial zone called the Monsea, and it accommodates a broad range of businesses, including services and commercial uses. This location and this use in it is accessible, pedestrian-friendly. It can be reached by both personal vehicle, it has transit options, and it promotes reuse and reinvestment in this activity center. The one contingency I'm placing on this or requesting that we do is that the applicant and the staff reach an agreement regarding how the parking should be handled to meet the minimum 13 requirements for this portion of the building, and complying with all engineering and environmental protections required during construction.
Is there support?
Support, and then I want to make amendment, sorry.
Okay.
Support. I believe that for the parking that city staff asked us to make the condition that the applicant update the parking agreement he currently has for 8 parking spots that was presented with the 2025 variance request to be the 13, at least the 13 required parking spots. So to update that agreement.
And I'm willing to do that. I wasn't going to be that prescriptive. I'd already thought about this ahead of time, so, but I'm willing to say specifically they have to update that agreement to 13.
I just want to make sure Rowan's happy, so if he's cool, yeah.
So do you support that?
Yes. Support.
All right, any other comments? No? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Much easier. Thank you. Good luck. Sorry you have to start from scratch, but yeah, you got a whole lot of new options now.
I actually am very excited about this. I just read an article in the New York Times about this and the sauna clubs, and I was like, yeah, I'm excited to see it come to fruition, so good luck.
Yeah, it's time here. And if you guys ever want me to do one on the lake or on the river, let me know.
Yeah. Take a little cruise with a cold plunge on off of your little deck. Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
No substantial discussion today, just we're also anticipating holding a meeting in August. So again, I'll reach out to you about availability. So if you could just send me that as when you can, that is appreciated. I'll also highlight that Lillian has been doing some amazing work on our training materials. So we are hopefully soon going to start bringing you fake cases, for a lack of a better word, that hinge on one of the 5 standards. They've been specifically designed to hinge on one of the 5 standards. So I or someone else will present them like we do a normal case. I'll have another staff member come up and be the applicant and talk about the case. We'll create plans and everything, kind of build out all of those. And we'll have normal discussion like we would if it was a real case and really dig into that one standard. So we are in the process of developing those materials, so hopefully to start doing that this fall. We're going to intentionally schedule them on lighter days so they're not tacked on to the end of a 3 or 4 case agenda. So it'll just be as capacity allows. If we don't have any cases one meeting, we might just do 2 or 3 during that one normally regular scheduled business item. I also want to highlight in the staff reports, they've been looking a little bit different because we've been modifying them. If you'll notice at the end of each variance, there's now a table with 3 columns that says what the request is, what the ordinance requires, and then what the variance is. And just wanted to confirm, is that information helpful? I know, Chair, that you were kind of looking for something similar like that. So just want to check in that information is valuable and we can continue doing that in the staff report.
I like it.
Okay. Great. Well, with that,
Wanna
that's everything I wanted
Talk about my pet peeve.
Which one, Lynn?
Which one? Yeah. I'm on the phone to him all the time. The infusion place.
Oh, yes. 465 Fuller Avenue Northeast. It was a case that was before the board a while ago about transparency. We are proceeding through the enforcement channels to try to get that removed as the board denied that. I received confirmation today that it will be done by the end of the month.
By what?
The end of the month.
Enforcement or him?
They will be removed by the end of the month.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been watching that place, and I told Rowan the other day, I said, it's kind of like, why am I sitting here if enforcement can't do anything to make what we decide happen? You know, it's kind of like, we told this guy months ago he had to get rid of those things, and it's like, but obviously something spurred his bonnet, but I don't know. Do we ever have input on enforcement process, or is that just kind of something that the city has a process and they follow it? And
Yeah, there's process and policy. Admittedly, I'm not super familiar with the ins and outs of that policy. I can bring back some
No,
of that
it's
procedure
okay.
to the board. Okay.
No, thanks for asking. I went
Yeah.
to Starbucks today. and
Oh.
I was like, I went to that Starbucks because I was curious.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I
Thank you.
I am on his case about a lot of things, so which one is very appropriate, thank you. All right, we're adjourned, thank you.
Thank you all.